Hi, this is Eric Schleien. You're listening to the Intelligent Investing Podcast, part of the Coronavirus Investing Series. And we have on Alex Portelli, who you've been on the show before. Now, where are you right now, Alex?
I'm in Las Vegas, United States.
All right, wonderful. And are you staying quarantined and getting just kind of making do?
Yeah, I mean, don't have much choice when everything is closed.
Yeah.
Finding things to do.
Do you like the COVID-19 setup right here?
I love it. Yeah, it's a sign of the times.
I figured we might as well go all out today if we're going to be on video.
Yep.
All right. What is behind you? What is that?
That is my family tree.
Oh, very cool.
That goes back to the 1400s.
Jeez.
Amazingly.
You're Maltese, right?
Maltese and Irish. Yep. Half Maltese, half Irish.
I didn't know
That's
about
the
the
Maltese
Irish
side.
Okay, because you always talk about Malta.
Yeah, there's not much to the Irish side.
All right, well, let's get started. So we're going to talk about the economics of COVID-19 tests and masks.
Yeah, definitely.
And so just tell us what you've been doing, because you're very entrepreneurial and you've been kind of I don't want to say taking advantage, but actually being able to support people during this time using your entrepreneurial talent. So tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have a company that traditionally does real estate and short-term rentals. That, as you can imagine, is probably the worst business you can be in during this crisis right now.
Short-term rentals?
Yes, nobody is traveling.
Maybe there might be a few businesses worse than that, but it's pretty low on the food chain there.
Yeah, that has dropped to almost zero. It's probably the worst I've ever seen.
Is it at zero right now, or do you still have some short-term renters?
Almost nobody. Okay. And then I'm in a lot of Airbnb groups and online and whatnot, and hosts are really they're going nuts. They're losing their minds over this.
Is it? I know some states have banned it, right? Or is it all states now?
A few places it looks like have. Okay. But I mean, it's just travel has dipped to almost zero. I mean, of course there are a few other people traveling, but there's nowhere to go, nothing to do. So, and then I have renters as well. I also have some traditional rental portfolios, and I have some are able to pay rent, but others others can't. And what can you do? I'm not going to kick somebody out. So, yeah. So that business, it's luckily. I've prepared for this kind of stuff, but it is a very bad time to be in it right now. So hopefully that picks up soon.
So tell us what you're doing right now.
So, after this all kind of happened, at the beginning of March, I got sick, and I wasn't sure if it was COVID or not. And I think the hospitals still do this, but when I did get sick, I tried to go to the hospital, and because my fever wasn't high enough, they wouldn't test me, or they wouldn't even let me through the doors.
Yeah, and I wanted to also just be clear, Alex, that nothing we talk about on the show should be deemed as any kind of medical advice. This is your
of course.
Individual anecdote and your opinion.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was kind of like, okay. So they said, well, you haven't been to Italy, you haven't been to China, and you don't have a fever, so you can't have coronavirus. So that's it. Go maybe buy a mask.
And that's what I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's what they told me. They told me to go. So I said, okay, well, I can't get tested, and the stores don't have masks. Most of the stores are closed. So what am I supposed to do? So I looked online, and I said, well, there's got to be a place I can get a test somewhere. How are people getting tested everywhere else? And I went to the one place you would go when you're looking for bulk manufacturing goods. I don't know if you want to take a guess at what website that would be.
Why don't you tell us?
Alibaba. And I saw here's COVID tests. I said, okay, well, I'm going to order a pack. And this is before anybody really even, I think, knew that you had these antibody rapid tests. And then there was also masks. And I said, okay, so I'll order some masks too. And there was a minimum order quantity. I made some contacts with some factories there and some medical companies. The one I picked has been in business for 18 years, and they had antibody tests, and they were selling apparently to hospitals and governments over there in East Asia. And this was before I think people really were taking coronavirus as like a really serious thing. It was right before everything really blew up here. So I ordered them. I ordered just like 100 of each, some face masks and some test kits. And yeah, and then they got here in a week. And
Huh.
that's kind of how I got into that. Found those. Now, since then, I've imported the test kits are a little more complicated, which we can get into later.
Sure. Yeah, please. Yeah.
But the face masks, I've now gotten to probably importing over 100,000. And this week alone, I have 250,000 masks coming. So this is really kind of blown up in the past month.
And how do you store all these?
The second we get them in, I mean, I have commercial property in Colorado, one of my properties, and I also have a pretty large 3-car garage at my own house. And but the second I get them in now, they kind of I have some employees that help me, and we process them out to hospitals and medical supply companies. So it's pretty nuts.
So you have you have like purchase agreements with hospitals, or how does that work?
So when I brought those first masks in, I said, okay, well, people online were all talking about, well, we need masks, and hospitals had no masks. And I said, okay, well, people obviously need masks. I'll put these online. So I had a few for myself, and I put some others online on as you can imagine, your usual eBay and OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace, just to see. And I sold them pretty much for what I was paying for them, just to get them out. And they were bought up in probably 5 minutes. So I said, okay, well, I need to get more masks. So, from there, I kind of would order more. Since then, we've had, because we would have, just from when I would make one listing, would have hundreds of people would contact me for it. And by then, they were like, well, when you get more, just let me know. And from there, we've built up now a clientele of restaurants and chain franchise owners and hospitals and clinics, and we have medical supply stores really all over the country now, and we don't even need to advertise. We bring them in and we get them to these networks of people that are waiting for them. So it is pretty incredible.
Now this is for the masks.
This is for masks.
Okay. Now was the tests, was it a similar story or a little different?
So the tests. So when I brought these tests in, I said, well, I thought I discovered, electricity, or the equivalent of. I was like, this is just what we need right now. No, everybody is getting sick and they can't be tested. These should be everywhere.
Right.
So I said, okay, well, why don't I just bring as many as I can and put them online for people?
Now you're a smart guy, so you must have thought maybe there's something I'm missing.
Yes. So I said, okay, well, let's see what the rules are, because this is a little more serious than masks. And at that point, I called the FDA. The FDA actually had established a hotline, which you can call. You go on their website, and I called them at midnight, and somebody picked up.
Oh, wow.
That's how serious.
Wow.
It is a hotline with the FDA solely for this COVID-related emergency authorization for equipment of anything. So all this stuff, it's to answer questions because they want to expedite the process of getting supplies in.
Sure.
So I would call them up, and at the time there's no rules. You can just bring them in, and that's it. So if they're antibody tests, and basically real quick, I'll explain what an antibody test. So if these are antibody tests. So as you know, when you have a virus, it leaves antibodies in your system. And those develop over time. And these tests, they're rapid tests, and you see them a lot in the news. I think there's a lot of controversy here in the U.S.
Well, because they're not 100% accurate, right?
So. Well, if you have antibodies, they are very, very accurate.
Okay.
They're over 90% validity. But you have to develop antibodies. So they're not necessarily something that you want to take and say, okay, it's negative, I don't have the coronavirus. But it's a good tool, I think, for people to have to assist in kind of those diagnosing methods.
Sure.
So anyway, so I was like, okay, this is great. So I started bringing some in, put some orders in, and then right after I kind of started to do that, actually remember what did it. There was some guy somewhere brought in like fake tests.
Okay.
So there's one incident with fake tests. Suddenly, then the rules changed overnight. So then it got a little more complicated. The FDA, for one, they've said that they don't want home tests, so can't sell these to the general public.
So it would actually be illegal for you to sell these to the general public.
Right. So you can no longer do that. And right now it's kind of waiting for the FDA to make rules. And there's a lot of companies that kind of shortly after I did this, figured this out. Some other companies figured it out. So you'd see in the news, like so-and-so is coming up with a rapid 10-minute test for $10. And there's a lot of companies ready to do this. There was one even in Colorado that was trying to patent, quote unquote, this kind of technology.
Okay.
But then the FDA rule kind of hampered all that. So now everybody, I think, is just waiting to see what they say. You can still bring them in, though. I mean, the rule, though, is kind of vague. It's simply no home testing. So,
okay. Well, didn't you? Sorry to just backtrack a little bit, but you had posted some stuff on Facebook that you were having some issues with customs, and I mean, wasn't there a whole thing around that?
Yes. So then because the rules change constantly, and the FDA has a website, if you call them, or they have a page on their website that's all dedicated to this stuff, to diagnostics, antibody testing, and it's just keeping up with the rules. But there was a time where customs and the FDA are kind of on different wavelengths. So customs might be following a rule that is another week old, or a rule they're not sure. But yeah, so then there were some issues with customs with destroy tests.
Yeah, tell us your story of what happened.
Yeah. So I had masks seized for a bit, and then I was told the masks were going to be sent back, and this was back in the mid-March, and this was 40,000 face masks.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I had 20,000 that made it through cleared customs, and then the other half of the order, another 20,000 were held. So
why did they hold some and then let some come through?
That's a great question. Some made it through, and the other, there was the same company, same brand, same exact everything. But they held them, and then I received an email from DHL, which was the carrier, with a ton of questions. There's a bunch of weird questions about different registration number, this, and manufacturer.
What did they ask you? What were some like the weird questions?
I could pull them up. It was about a list of. Actually, give me 2 seconds, and I'll read. It's just for the audiences, so they kind of get an idea.
Yeah, we don't really hear about this stuff, so this is.
No, yeah, it's especially for something as simple as a mask. So there's a lot of rules that go into it for sure.
Right.
It was something to do with. There was like 4 or 5 things that they were missing. Some kind of registration number, a manufacturer identification number, a bunch of. They said that a number on one of these 5 numbers was incorrect on the form. So they're going to destroy the masks. So
they were going to actually destroy the masks that
destroy them
are
or
much
send
needed.
Them. Yes. So
while hospitals have shortages.
Yes, well, hospitals were kind of wearing bandanas around their mouths and stuff. So I said, okay, well, this is, I was pretty upset. I was like, this is like my life savings is going into these masks, just bringing them in. I said, well, I'm going to drive down there to LAX Customs.
How long did that drive for you, Alex?
5 hours.
Each way?
That was 5 hours each way.
So you were doing 10-hour round trips.
I did a 10-hour. On this day when I was told they were going to destroy them, I said, oh, well, I'm going to go, argue. So I drove down. I drove from Las Vegas to LAX Customs, and I left in the morning. I got there right before the DHL carrier office closed, customs office closed, and then I got there. And this is just before the day before. I was told by an agent that they were going to be destroyed or sent back. And then I get there and I asked them about the package, and I'm expecting to have to argue and I'm going to lose my temper because I can be a hothead sometimes.
You Alex, can be a little bit of a hothead sometimes.
So
who knew?
Yeah, I said, okay, well, hopefully I don't get arrested here. So I would just barge in. I'm like, look, keep calm, Yeah. And I'm like, let's see what happens. And I go up to the guy and speak to him. I said, well, I have this order and here's the waybill number. And they said, oh, okay, one moment.
What is a waybill number? What does that mean?
It's something to do with like international shipping if you're sending something across. Yeah.
So it's like a tracking ID almost?
Yeah, almost. So he said, all right, so they went to go dig it up, and then some guy came out who seemed like more like with some kind of customs agent, and he said, all right, we'll just need to know what's in the package exactly. You have a picture of it? Or I'm like, you can open it up and see. And they're like, no, you can just show me. So I showed him a picture, and He said, okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
And he left. Then in 5 minutes, he comes back and he says, okay, we can release them.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. He's like, just pay a duty. It was like $500 or something.
What is that about?
I don't know,
You just pay
because
a
then
duty?
I don't it's,
Because it wasn't consistent, right? I mean, you were able to.
yeah, sometimes shipments don't have any duty fees. Sometimes they do. I'm still trying to understand it. I'm guessing. I'm feeling like if you get some kind of if some kind of the paperwork is incorrect, it's kind of a way to kind of fine you.
Oh, so you're kind of dinged for a mistake on the paperwork.
Yeah, I feel like that might have been it, because other times, I have none.
Now, did you have to, in hindsight, would you have had to show up, or could you have just paid it over the phone or something?
I had spent all day trying to call everybody, and I was told by multiple people and received even an email. Yeah, that it was going to be.
That's wacky. And how long did this, when you actually got there, how long did it take before they just said, hey, just pay your $500 duty fee and you're on your way?
30 minutes.
That's crazy.
And then they actually brought it out to me, so it was right there behind the door almost.
And these are masks they were actually going to potentially destroy.
Yes. Yep.
For $500.
Yes, if it was what I was told over the phone was correct, yes, they could have potentially destroyed them. And they have been destroying a lot of stuff. Now, and also while I was there, I got some useful information, because right before at this time, when I was ready to start bringing test kits en masse over, I'd received word from our manufacturer of those test kits, the medical company, that they had an order destroyed. One of their clients in the U.S. had their order destroyed, so they weren't going to export to the U.S. anymore.
Huh.
So then I had spoken to this duty officer, and I asked him, and he said, "Oh, well, it's the FDA. An FDA investigator comes out for any COVID test kits, and he lets them through if he thinks they're real."
Yeah.
So there was just like 3 different rounds of information, because then when I had spoken to the FDA on the phone, I was told that they had changed the rules and they weren't letting test kits in at that point. So there's a lot of different stuff. That company, though, now their test kits do come through now, so it's everything is good. But just the ever-changing rules kind of there.
That's wild. So huh? Did you ever figure out what the deal was with why you couldn't do it or just over the phone? Like what they were confused about?
No, I have not. I have paid another duty fee over the phone though since then. So
maybe they got their act together.
It could be.
Things are changing so fast.
Right, things are changing so fast. It's very confusing, even for them, I think. And now there are a lot of things that are being confiscated. Though one thing that worries me that you see a lot, and I guess this goes into like there's a lot of risks with investing in this, because now at this point it's no longer just bringing this in for me. It's my company's investment, because we're bringing a lot of masks in.
Sure.
So hopefully test kits when we get those to people. And I do have some test kits here I can show you.
Let's see.
Yeah. So now the FDA, the latest thing, the good news is that on their website they have kind of made a little bit of guidelines for bringing test kits in, diagnostic test kits. So they have a list. I think it's it's about 60-something manufacturers, where the manufacturer just has to kind of give them notice and their validity kind of reports on their tests. And then they'll allow these to be imported.
Okay.
So this is one of the companies. This is kind of what these tests look like.
Just hold it up a little closer. There you go. Yep. Just hold it for like 5 seconds so I can get a screenshot of it too.
So this is one company called Relay.
Okay.
They have been doing antibody test kits. Well, they've been doing medical test kits for a long time. They've been doing these coronavirus test kits probably for the last.
Just move it up a little bit.
Months. Yep.
Perfect. Okay.
And they all work the same way.
Right.
Now, these are, if you go to a hospital or you go to a clinic and you get an antibody test kit, it could be one of these. So these are the same. Anything, if you get it from China, it's not like just because it came from China, it's technically.
Because weren't they blocking them from China originally?
They were, but the thing is that, which of course they kind of probably hate to admit, is we kind of right now need China for these tests, because China has been dealing with this virus months before us, so they've had months to get all of this stuff together and produce this stuff. Sure. So and that's why hospitals are importing these from a lot of these companies. This is another one, by the way, and these companies are on the FDA website.
Okay. What brand is that?
This is called Orient Gene.
Okay.
Biotechnology company.
Interesting. And what's are there differences, or is it just the different brand?
It's just different biotech companies that are developing antibody tests. They almost always look the same, and they work in the same way. It's
you're just buying whatever's available. Is that?
So I have some samples. We're not really. There's some clinics and medical suppliers that I've kind of been supplying these to, but it's not something really in bulk yet. And then also now we're also facing at this point, which wasn't before. There's huge shortages, or there's a huge bottleneck of supplies because you have. Most of the medical supplies in the world are manufactured in China, ironically. So
do you have examples of, speaking of supplies, do you have any masks with you that I could see?
Yeah. Yep. So these are KN95s.
Now,
here.
Is that different than N95?
Yes. So these
explain the difference to the listeners or the people watching on YouTube.
Yep. So KN95.
Yeah, for people listening on the podcast, we're streaming this on YouTube, so we'll put a link to the YouTube on the show notes for those actually interested in looking at the video and seeing some of these images.
Cool.
Yeah.
So a KN95 is basically the Chinese version of the N95.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Got it. Is it pretty much the same, or is it a little different?
No, I mean, I'm not an expert or technically
if you don't know, that's
medical, but I can give on my opinion. The N95 is the best mask you're going to get.
Got it. Okay.
The thing is that so few companies make N95s. If everybody who needed a mask was waiting for an N95, we would probably be waiting for them for 3 years. Because right now
are you selling sorry to interrupt you, but is the KN95, or do you sell those at all the hospitals? Do clinics use those at all?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's they need them, and the thing is they have to, if you work in a hospital or a clinic, you can only reuse those so many times. They don't really hold up to be washed, so they've got to be disposed of, and they need new ones. And that's right now. Those are our kind of clients and customers, mainly our hospitals and clinics. Since then, also, I actually partnered with a buddy of mine in Costa Rica who kind of has a garment business. And we've been manufacturing masks in Costa Rica that are more general. Again, they're not medical grade masks.
They're just like a fabric mask, basically.
Yeah, well, they're non-woven, which is very good. Non-woven, you want woven masks. And they're made of cambrail, which is a tough material. It's moisture proof and waterproof. And we've been manufacturing and just started to bring these up. And they're elastic. They fit very well. Those ones we're kind of pushing to the general public because it's kind of the KN95s we reserve for our hospital and clinic clients, and then those we reserve for the general public.
Very cool. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to buy one of those cloth masks from you, where could they go to get that?
We're setting up a website right now to have them online once we have like a steady shipment, because right now every amount that we bring in has kind of been bought.
Right.
And then I can send you that link. We do have them on Etsy, which ironically, another kind of funny incident about this.
I laugh, but it's not a judgment. It's just like
I understand.
You wouldn't think Etsy when you say it.
You know what's funny is that the goal is to kind of get them out quick to people, to just get them masked, and it's been going nuts. And what's funny is there's a mask shortage, but just when this mask shortage started, all of the online e-commerce websites banned face mask sales. Almost all of them.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if they've changed their rules now, but
what's
eBay,
what's the purpose for that?
They don't want. I think it was a reaction to public outrage over price gouging.
God.
So to be safe, they just ban them outright. So if you try to list a mask on
that's a shame, isn't it?
Yes. So it's very tough. So if people have masks and you have these inventories of masks and you can't get them to people.
That's
Yeah.
That's annoying.
It's kind of, but ironically, Etsy, we were dealing with that problem, and with all these different sites and eBay and even Amazon at the time. I think Amazon is more lax, but I'm not sure.
I have seen some masks on Amazon.
Yeah,
but I don't
think
know
Amazon
how good they are.
Changed their rule. But then my girlfriend ironically said, "Hey, well, Etsy just put something," because she sells stuff on Etsy. She's like, "Etsy just put something out to like saying like all sellers, if you have masks, make masks. I'm like, really? Well, we have tons of masks.
Right.
So we put those on, and they sold thousands in a week.
Interesting.
Less than a week. So, yeah, very strange.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So are there any things currently that you think, in terms of either government policy or corporate policies, things that you think should change from where they're currently at? Would you, if you were advising the government, would there be certain recommendations you would make that you think would improve the situation right now?
I think if they if you go on I'll tell you what your audience what to do real quick. If you to see the FDA
and if you
rules.
can email me after and send me a link to all this so I could put it up on the show notes for the listeners.
Yep. So the FDA, when I called their hotline the first time, they said, okay, so if you need our rules, just do this. Google FDA SARS-CoV-2 diagnostics.
Okay.
And one of the first link to come up is the page to their diagnostic test kits rules. And one sentence, this is why the rule is not even really that elaborated on, it's very vague, but one sentence kind of I feel like caused this huge shortage of testing. No home testing allowed. And if they removed that sentence, I think overnight the testing problem would be solved.
And what is the government's purpose for that? What's the rationale behind that?
I don't know.
Do you think it's to prevent fraudulent companies from popping up and sending it to the house? That's what I would imagine.
Yeah, it's definitely, you have to be careful because
they want to control the accuracy of it. Maybe.
Right. I mean, every regulation is there because of some dumb ASS.
Sure, I'm not saying that I agree with it.
Right,
But
so it's tough.
In terms of just the rationale behind it.
Yeah, I don't know. But one good thing I can say about them is they did put guidelines out. For importing these, at least, they said, look, just include these guidelines that we have on our website when you distribute them. Which is nice, and it's very reasonable. So the guidelines, I'll pull them up for you real quick, and these are off their website.
I'm curious. Your cloth mask that you sell, can you speak pretty okay with them?
Yeah.
Could you put one on and read the guidelines with the mask on?
Yeah, definitely. This is the only one I have left, and I gave to my cat, and he tore it up. So,
okay.
But I'll put it on. It's got a little rip on it, but yeah. How does it sound? Good.
Let's see.
Doesn't sound bound.
No. You can hear the ruffling, but other than that, it sounds good.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too bad.
I can hear you fine. Yeah, good.
Perfect. Yeah, they're pretty good masks. They're moisture proof, so moisture doesn't get in or out, and we sell them for under $2.
Take it off though. It does interact with the mic in terms of the echo.
So we sell them for under $2, and just pay shipping, and it depends how much you buy, but if you buy bulk, you can get them for $1.25 each. So I see it as a good way to get mass amounts of masks out to the public.
Interesting.
So the FDA, this is what they said, and this is reasonable. These are what they want if you're distributing diagnostics tests. The tests, quote, the FDA does not intend to object to the development and distribution by commercial manufacturers or development and use by laboratory of serology tests to identify antibodies to SARS-CoV-2 where the test has been validated. Notification is provided to the FDA. So it's you do some kind of validity test.
Sure.
You notify the FDA that you've done this and you want to distribute this, and then you put the following information is included in the test. Quote, this test has not been reviewed by the FDA. Negative results do not rule out SARS-CoV-2 infection, particularly in those who have been in contact with the virus. Follow-up testing with a molecular diagnostic should be considered to rule out infection in these individuals. Results from antibody testing should not be used as a sole basis to diagnose or exclude SARS-CoV-2 infection or to inform infection status. Positive results may be due to past or present infection with non-SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus strains. And then it says this policy does not apply to home testing.
Got it.
So I think that they could allow these to be distributed to the general public safely, just to give people access to something to kind of have peace of mind.
If it's not 100% accurate, at least it's something.
Right, and you can always. I think that if somebody lied about validity tests, I'm sure the FDA will catch up eventually. I I think that they can go after those companies. But as a whole, I mean, it would definitely be very beneficial to get mass amounts of antibody tests out.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, so there's Alex Portelli's recommendation for our government.
Yeah. And as for the masks, I mean, I think that the mask shortage will catch up. I notice a problem, an issue with. So one thing about a lot of these companies overseas, I mean, an issue that you deal with Chinese-made products is there are a lot of counterfeits. I don't know if it's half they're trying to purposely defraud stuff, or half because they just don't kind of understand some of these guidelines.
And how do you avoid accidentally buying a counterfeit in Alibaba? Are they decent at regulating that?
It's tough, but I mean, if you buy something off Amazon, most Amazon products come from companies on Alibaba. You just kind of have to vet the company. We've got
what is the process to vet a Chinese company like that? Can you walk us through it?
That's a great question. I look for companies that have been around a long time, that have great ratings, and that have done a lot of business.
So do you actually see like new companies spurring up on Alibaba that's all of a sudden just magically selling, COVID-19 tests?
Not so much the tests, ironically. Ironically, though, over there now, it seems like they've tightened things up, if anything.
Okay.
So now it's definitely more tight. Actually, these companies can't even list. I think Alibaba made a rule. They don't even allow COVID tests to be listed anymore due to pressure from.
So how are you getting them now?
I've already made contact.
Oh, you've already made the contact.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, we've already developed agreements with these companies, luckily. So it kind of lucked out there. But yeah, anyway.
Have you ever tried drinking with a mask on and like taking off part of your mask?
No, I haven't yet. To be honest, maybe maybe you can call me a spreader or whatever. I don't ironically wear a mask.
You don't? Well, I would recommend as a concerned citizen that you wear a mask when you're out.
Yes, I should wear masks. People should wear masks. I don't know. I almost see a bit of just a futility in all of this. But you should wear masks for sure. It's definitely. I think masks in Asia, they always wear masks. You look at
part
Taiwan,
it's part of their culture.
Part of the culture. Yep. My friend is in Taiwan, and Taiwan has not shut down anything.
And part of it too is like, let's say I had COVID-19 and I didn't know. And I cough, and now I'm not preventing someone from getting it. So it's more preventing me from spreading anything potentially.
Yep, exactly. And because this virus apparently, from what studies on on the news say, if it's true, that it spreads by air and lives for hours in the air. So
sure.
But my friend in Taiwan is anyone who knows.
And I think from the studies that does seem to be true.
Yes, I would say that.
They've even said with the precaution that it's not going to be as long as it is in the lab because that's a controlled environment.
Right.
But it does seem, from what we understand, from what I've read, that it does get transferred through air particles.
And the way that it spreads so fast, it would be I mean, just using common sense, kind of. I think that's even with New York City. Why New York City has been so devastated by it is. I was just talking to my friend about it. Is everybody on the subway for months? Just breathing in the subway cars, the same air. It's probably been spreading for months there. So it's definitely a very and then it has such a long, you don't even have a symptom for weeks. It's pretty incredible.
My dad got it right started about a little over a month ago. He had got it. And
wow.
Yeah. He wrote a op-ed piece in the New York Times that was just out the other day.
Oh, no way.
So he's been getting all these, messages and emails from people. He was just on CNN with Don Lemon the other night.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Where is it? Yeah.
And he's based in New Rochelle, which was like the epicenter for New York.
That's what I was going to say. Wasn't sure if you were going to say that, but New Rochelle, I remember it was really hit bad.
Really bad, yeah. So
it's interesting.
But you know what? It was scary for a time when he called me and he'd, just taken himself to the ambulance. And so I didn't know if he'd be around for the end of the weekend. A little terrifying.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, it definitely is.
So it's for people like us, we're pretty low risk, but someone over 60 years old, you should be. I think we should all be taking precautions, but especially if you're in a higher risk category. It actually saddens me when I've gone out to the supermarket and wearing my mask and all that, and seeing there's an Italian market near where I live, and seeing these Italian guys hugging each other, touching and I'm like, and they're like 70 years old, and it's part of the Italian culture. But geez, like, dude, like, come on, are you trying to kill yourself? But it's their life, and it was a little mind blowing. And then it's like, well, maybe this is why mortality rates are high in Italy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're definitely very.
That is a very unscientific thing I just said. So do not.
It's a culture. I mean, I'm Italian.
Look. I'm not a physician, so I don't want to start making claims that this is why Italian mortality rates are so high. But come on, like a little wild.
Absolutely, definitely a lot of hugging and kissing on the cheeks in Italy. So, no, it's definitely scary for sure.
You know what though? We'll look back in 20 years now that all this stuff is on. I mean, could you imagine if we had podcasts in 1918? And what
about
was going?
The Spanish flu? Yep.
Yeah, I saw a photo the other day on Facebook, and it's a trolley car from 1918, and they're not letting someone come on because he's not wearing his face mask. Those big face masks back then. Kind of cool, and it was colorized. They colorized the photo. So it was in New York. I think it was New York City. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
So we can look back at this podcast, in 10, 20 years from now, and this will be like a little bit of history.
It absolutely will.
So with that, Alex, I would like to make some more history with you right now. Yeah. And I would like to, I don't know if this exists, but if it doesn't, it does now. We're going to do a really quick tutorial on how to drink while wearing a face mask.
Oh, great.
So let's select our, how does the Jameson Irish Whiskey Cask Stout Edition, that sounds good? Do you approve, Alex?
Yeah, do that for my Irish side that I neglect so much.
We're going to honor your Irish side and do this. We are so ridiculous on the show. This is I remember, I tell my guests, not you more, but people who are just doing like finance and investments, and I say, look, I know we're going to be all nerdy and talk about finance and stocks, right? But I said at the end of the day, it's a podcast, and we need people. If it's not interesting and fun to listen to, then you could just go read a book. I don't want to listen to someone just lecture on a podcast. That's like kind of boring to me. So I always tell people, just remember, it's not just us talking, but we also have close to 5,000 subscribers talking, and over 150,000 people that have downloaded the show. And those are going to be the ones listening. And if they're not entertained, they're going to turn it off.
Yep.
So with that, just for a little fun, and I think in times like these that are real serious, it's good to have a little fun and bring a little humor to it. So with that being said, let's make a little history and do the tutorial. So the first part is you take off the cap like this. I like things with caps. So you just take it out. You don't need a cork or need a corkscrew or anything. It's very simple. And then you take the chin strap of your mask, or if you have a cloth mask, you just kind of pull it up, right?
Yep.
You go like this. Now my nose is still covered. You see that? Mm-hmm. So if I am snorting, like, it's not going to go out, but I can still breathe. So just go like this. And I close my eyes, as you notice, because I didn't want the face mask going into my eye.
Yep.
And then once I'm done with my drink, I just pull it up.
Yep.
Hopefully don't break all the bottles. Pull it up. Push the nose thing back there. Chin strap up. And there we go.
Very nice. Very impressive.
Without breaking any bottles.
Nobody ever thinks to put the mask up, I think.
No.
Yeah.
What do they think to put it down?
Yeah. And then they expose themselves.
You expose yourself. Now, clearly I was exposing myself with the mask up, and this is not medical advice whatsoever. And if you are out on an Italian market, I highly recommend not doing that.
Yes.
But if you're in the comfort of your own home and you want to be ridiculous, then you're more than welcome to do that. So there's your tutorial, Alex. I hope you learned something.
That was actually, I never would have thought of that. I never thought to put the mask up for anything.
Well, now you can put the mask up. If you don't even wear a mask, but if you decide to,
if I decide to, take the safe approach and wear one.
Start wearing a mask. You should, you're selling masks. You should be a role model for your customers. Yeah,
I should be. Maybe I'll start wearing masks. I don't know. Maybe I'm just that I need to make sure everyone gets their mask who needs one, and I end up never wearing the mask, and then I catch coronavirus. And
I think it's people like us, though, especially to be vigilant, to treat yourself like you already have it, so I don't spread it to 10 people.
And that even goes back to, so when I got these first antibody kits, and I took 5 tests. I was when I was sick.
You actually took some tests.
Yeah, I took a bunch, and and they came up negative. Now, but of course, I didn't say, "Woohoo! I'm safe."
You're free, right?
Because here's, to be frank, one, they test for antibodies, and 2, I don't know if they're real or not. So I still treated myself like I could be sick until I got better, like you would do with anything being sick.
Right.
And I think with this virus, everybody should kind of treat themselves like that. Assume you have it, and I think, and that is something else that I wish that the hospitals kind of did with people and did with me. Is instead of telling me I can't have it, even if I don't have a fever and they can't test me, they should treat people like they do have it, and they should give people advice like they do have it. Because it seems like from a lot of other complaints from people I know who have been sick is that the same thing. They send them away and they kind of try to discredit them.
I think they're doing that less now, from what I hear.
Yeah, I hope now, because this was probably the first week of March, so
okay,
I really hope.
I do think it's different now.
Okay, good. Yeah, because that's kind of, when they said that, I was just like, if I don't have a fever, I think by now we know that you don't have to have a fever to have this thing.
But you know what? If like a month ago, we didn't know that.
Right, exactly. There's a lot of bad information. I think it also comes with the WHO was putting out bad information they were getting from China, and people were trying to be, loyal to the WHO and follow the kind of procedures and follow the procedures that they were getting about this virus.
Sure.
Well,
I'll tell you, it was really about a month and a half ago. Again, right when this was the beginning of this, there was one night where I was up a little bit. I stayed pretty late, and there was one night I was up, and I had a little bit of a dry cough. And of course, it could have just been a placebo. Of now that I'm focusing on this cough, that I'm a little nervous, right? So the anxiety goes up.
Yes.
Because that's just me. I'm like a hypochondriac. So
yes.
I'm thinking, okay, just to be safe, I'm going to call my health insurance and I'll do a teledoc call. Mm-hmm. Well, I couldn't get through because it was busy. So I tried calling the nurse's line. I was on hold for an hour and I just gave up. Yep. I called the nurse's line, the 24/7 nursing line, and there's a glitch with number. I don't know if maybe they're over capacity or bandwidth. And, I reported the number wasn't working, but it would bring me back to the main screen saying, our offices are closed. And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to call the office. I'm trying to call the 24/7 nursing line. So then I'm like, okay, well, what's the next step? I can call my local hospital. So I called, I'm not going to say the name of the hospital, but I called a local hospital here because they actually have a good reputation and I think they were just doing their job. But I spoke to I think it was a physician. And I said, I can't get in touch with my health insurance company. I have a cough tonight, but I don't have a fever. 'Cause I did test for a fever, and I didn't have a fever. And I go, does that mean I could potentially have it, or do you need a fever? And he goes, I can't really give you medical advice. So there was so can you imagine?
Yes, it was very scary.
I'm in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. I don't know if I'm it begins at the beginning, so I don't know what's the approach. Do I go to a hospital? Do I not?
Yep.
And they just said, if you don't feel like you're going to die, you actually can put yourself more at risk by going out and coming to get tested. Yeah. And I would even say don't get tested unless you really feel like it's an emergency. And I said, how would I know? They go, you would know. So I go, okay. Which, by the way, isn't always true either, by the way.
Right.
My dad was actually saying, as a physician, that he recommends everyone get one of the pulse oximeters in their house to measure their oxygen, because he said, when he had to rush himself to the hospital, he got down to about 88. But he said it wasn't like he was feeling super woozy. Like he would have stayed home still, and it could have gotten progressively worse slowly. And so who knows if it would have been a different outcome if he didn't have that. Yep.
My realtor in Colorado, her boyfriend is actually the doctor for the Denver Broncos, and he was saying, I can always go to him for kind of medical whatever, but he was saying that this was back in the beginning of March when we were just kind of getting all this information. But he said that the way you really can tell, they can tell if somebody is a high risk and might die. They got to get them serious help is they feel like they're drowning.
Yeah,
If they have a
that's
feeling like they're drowning, he said
right.
that's it. And if you feel like you're drowning, get medical help immediately. Go to the ER.
Right.
If you don't feel like you're drowning, then it might not be. You might be okay.
Yeah, and you know what? I woke up the next morning. I had no cough. It was just for whatever reason. But there was that night was a little scary where I didn't know what to do. Do I stay home? Do I go out? And no one can talk to me and give me medical advice. And I can't get in touch with my health insurance company.
I think, and that was the exact same boat I was in. I couldn't reach anybody. I spent an hour or two on the phone. It was very, very scary. I have asthma from secondhand cigarette smoke.
Now it seems like people who are asthmatic are not actually at higher risk. That's what I read. But
I read that too now.
But we didn't know at the beginning.
Right, and back then we didn't know that, and so I was scared because they were saying, "Oh, if you have asthma, you might die or whatever if you get this thing." So there was times where, because I was definitely sick with something. I mean, who knows? Maybe I had it. Maybe I just had the flu. But there was times where I was up at night and I felt kind of sick, or I was sick, and I was afraid to go to sleep because you're seeing in the news people are getting sick and they wake up, they can't breathe,
and you're probably thinking about it too, so it makes the symptoms a little worse.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I think that was part of a lot of just like not knowing. We weren't really getting any concrete information. We didn't really have answers, and that's why I really said, okay, well, I'm going to try to do something about this, and see if I can get some solution, and that's really how I started looking for these tests.
Well, good on you, Alex, and I admire the entrepreneurial spirit and you doing what you can to help out during these times. Mm-hmm. And thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I hope that and everyone at the FDA that I've spoken to, they are very, very nice. They're very helpful, and they seem like they also want to help. They have their rules to follow, but they want to help make this easier for people.
Yeah.
And I hope that they come up with rules soon to regulate home testing so that they can be made cheap and affordable and available for people. So it'll definitely help everybody here in this situation.
All right, good. I think we can end on that note. But Alex, a pleasure to have you on like always.
Yep.
And hope to talk to you soon and be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. You too, man. I'll keep you updated on things.
Great. Thank you. Take care.
Take care, man.
All right. Bye.